Previously on Project Maverick 1000.
We're gonna check out some side-by-side. Man, look at that. There is something majorly up with the transmission. I paid $6 grand for it. Dude gave me that trailer too. I got a lot of the backstory. It's definitely had a rough pass, that's for sure. Hack job roof up here. This material is pretty hardcore. We'll trim it really nice. Oh, it looks amazing. This god-awful graphics kit looks so much better. I want to take off this snorkel kit. All wired absolutely terribly. You can see disconnected. All of what is this stuff even for?
Well, you can hear that thing's already making weird noise.
Check out the carnage. Stock exhaust that we're going to be getting rid of.
This is surprisingly decent quality, it feels like. Well, this is definitely a lot more simple than the OEM setup.
I want to put the light bar on.
Excited to put these on.
These tires look really good.
And on this episode,
I'm going to take my best shot at cleaning up all these wires. Holy, oh my god. I can't see anything. Dude, get rid of those stupid carbon fiber stickers. Check out the dash. I just don't think it's ever going to come back to normal. Oh, dude, it's just destroyed.
we're gonna make a custom mounting plate for our AFR gauge.
Now is the perfect time to check our valve clearances. This is really bad. I've never seen oil so sludgy. It's like Elmer's glue, dude. Hell yeah, these things are looking like brand new. Wow. Even I'm impressed. All right, guys, I am staring at the Maverick right now. If you guys remember, the wiring on this thing was a freaking nightmare.
Dude, this is literally one of the most hack jobs I've ever seen. All this stuff is just done so hack. A whole bunch of excess wire just laying out. You can see disconnected. What is this stuff even for?
So without further ado, I'm going to take my best shot at cleaning up all these wires. I may not film everything, but I definitely want to show you guys what's going on. All right, guys, I'm about to do the wiring and stuff that's all botched up in this thing. So I have the dash pulled up, and you can see all the wires and stuff in here. Some of this stuff is added, like this switch right here is for the winch. It's pretty messy in here. A lot of this stuff is not OEM, some of it is. So I'm just going to pull it apart and clean it up, make it nice and tidy. I'm going to add the light bar in. Got the wire just kind of hanging right here, so I'm going to add in that wire harness that came with the light bar kit. All this stuff really needs work. You can see that all these wires and stuff, they're just kind of floating and resting on the cylinder. I don't like that, so all that stuff is going to be cleaned up. I don't know if I'll get to this today because we still have to do the air-fuel ratio module. Like, even just this, I don't like this. This wire's just kind of floating. I doubt that that's how it's supposed to be. I don't like that it's touching the cylinder. You know, it's a hot spot. So that's probably going to be completely rerouted. I really wanted to point out these winch wires are literally just floating. Just hanging out. Solid wiring job right here, baby. Just leave it to the pros. But yeah, guys, so wish me luck. This is probably going to be pretty messy, but we'll get it good, don't worry. All right, guys, check it out. I'm starting to figure this out. So this is the wire harness that somebody had put in here. This is the thing that had the little junk splice on it. Basically, this is all hooked up to the winch. Down here, hooks into the contactor block. So I did rewire these, just redirected them and stuff to make it a little bit cleaner. And you see I have these wires just jumping here. I discovered that this green connector that was in the wire harness is actually an OEM, it's an abandoned connector for a winch. So the Canam wire harness is already set up for a winch. That was actually supposed to be here. All of these are OEM. I'm kind of shocked. This one is supposed to have the female end of the connector so that you can connect auxiliary power. We're probably going to use that for our light bar, actually. And I believe this is power as well, but I'm not 100% sure, this white one here. So all of our wires are actually figured out. This isn't as bad as I thought. So aside from that green connector for the winch, there are wires that come out behind the radiator on the passenger side headlight wires. So apparently this is on all Mavericks and Commanders, and that is where your winch control is. So that's why I have these wires jumped and running up to our contactor for the winch. I want to test everything before I actually make a little wire harness for this. Now it's plugged into the switch. You can see only the top LED is lit. And the out's not working, but the in is working. So I think I have this figured out. If you look at the back of this switch, And now this in and out switch is, this is not Can-Am as far as I know. This came with whatever winch kit the dude bought. So if you look at the back of this connector, the OEM connector, and then the back of this connector, which came with the winch kit, you can see there's a whole bunch of jumpers on it. It looks like they use, looks like all the slots in this connector, and I bet you that's to light the lower LED and to work the in, or the out switch rather. The out switch is what's not working. So what I'm going to do, there's 4 wires that come out of there, and it looks like they're color coordinated with the ones on this switch too. I could run jumpers to all these other slots, but there's no prongs in there. So what I'm going to do is cut this and cut this one and splice this connector into the factory harness, and that should plug right into the winch switch, and it should power this switch up, and we should be good to go, which is awesome. Then we can just get rid of this old junk wire harness, and we'll be running through the Can-Am factory harness. Everything should be nice and neat. So I'm going to get to doing that, and then I'll show you guys where I'm at. Okay guys, so I got everything figured out, everything tidied up for the most part anyways. All of the wires for the winch itself, you can see them running up here. Everything is zip tied nice and tight. And then they run underneath here. You can see that area where there was extra. I just looped it, tightened it up. Get this reservoir out of the way. You can see the wires come up through here, go along here, and then everything comes up to the contactor. It's all nice and clean. It's not all over the place like it was before. All this stuff is nice and tight, zip tied nice and tight, and I loomed everything. I made a small wire harness using Deutsch connectors. You can kind of see the one 2-pin Deutsch connector in there. And then if you come down to this end, here's the other Deutsch connector. Now this is actually tied into the factory wire harness. So most of the abandoned plugs up in this area were all for the winch. That one 3-prong connector, I cut that off and put a 3-prong Deutsch connector because I didn't have the male, or the female end rather, to connect. That was for the remote winch. Control, which I'll show you that works in a second. And then of course that green plug was this one right here, which we replaced with the black one. Everything is working now. Both LEDs work. Out and in, everything is working. I staggered all of my butt splices. These are waterproof butt splices, so that should be nice and tidy. I'm gonna put some loom on there to clean it up, and I'll show you guys the remote winch works as well. Both of them work. Everything's good to go, man. So I'm gonna wrap this up. A lot of people ask what I did in the past. The last job that I had before I decided to pursue YouTube full-time, I was building emergency services vehicles, which was 90% wiring. I mean, it was so much wiring, it was crazy, doing all the signals and the light bars and the sirens and stuff like that. And the level of the quality standard was so high there because people's lives are literally relying on these machines. So that's where I get all of my wiring knowledge from. Not all of it, but a majority of it, and making it super tidy and making sure everything is waterproof and we're not gonna have any corrosion or anything. So this machine is gonna be top notch. When I'm done with all this wiring and stuff, it's gonna be really, really nice. Mike, why'd you turn the lights off? So I turned the lights off so that I can show you how this light bar works. It is not hooked up entirely. I just have some random wires running to it. And then the other 2 ends, you can't even see it right now, but the other 2 ends are just hooked into that accessory plug that was already in the wire harness. I just wanted to make sure that we're getting power out of there, and I want to make sure the light bar works. Check this out. Whoa! You can't even get an idea of how bright this thing is without actually being here. It's like crazy bright, dude. Holy shit. Yeah, it's really bright. Yeah, so I can't really see anything. But in the meantime, before I go and wire in the light bar, I'm going to pull all of the switches out of our dash, and I'm going to take the rest of these decals off of the dash, off of our instrument cluster, and off of the dash over there, the glove box, and I'm going to paint most of it flat black. I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with the other covers so that everything matches and looks really nice in here. A lot of people were like, dude, get rid of those stupid carbon fiber stickers. All right, guys, so check out the dash. It's looking pretty thrashed, man. A bunch of people have recommended trying to restore this stuff. And guys, I listened to all of your opinions, believe me. It's just that I think this is beyond, using like a restoration or a Cerakote on here. I just don't think it's ever gonna come back to normal, especially with the huge contrast between the areas where the stickers were and then where it was bare. Oh, dude, it's just destroyed. Totally faded out. There's lots of scratches and stuff. I just don't think it's worth the effort, and I'm not even sure it would come out that great. So what I've been doing is like I did with the grill and the center console. These pieces are done. This was done in bed liner. You can see there's a little bit of a texture on it. And this was just flat black. And people were like, oh, a couple people anyway. They're like, oh no, dude, I can't believe you put bed liner on there. That's gonna attract dirt. And they're right, man, look. Oh no, it's already attracting dirt. So that stuff will still clean. I'll have to spray it and use a brush, but they're right, man. I don't know if bed liner was the best choice. It still looks awesome. So I'm going to do this portion of the center console in bed liner only because, it sits right there. So it will match really nicely if that's in bed liner also. And then the rest of the pieces are gonna be flat black. Mike, I can't believe you sprayed it with bed liner. There is one other thing I wanna do to this center console piece before I scuff and paint it. Okay, so on this center dash thing here, if you guys remember, there were these holes up here and they just look like crap. So originally I was planning on making like a piece of rubber and making a template and cutting it out just to cover up these holes and make it look decent. And believe it or not, that's actually how it's supposed to be from the factory. Not with those holes, but nothing goes in here. It's like a cup holder. We're gonna get an AFR gauge. And I plan to put that right in the middle here. So that's probably what these holes are for. I'm almost certain that this machine had an AFR fuel module on here before because it had a Trinity exhaust that probably had the fuel optimizer and most likely had a gauge or something up here. So they just did a chop shop job of cutting the hole over here. I could clean those up. I may still do that, but I may not because it's not even a seen area once we're done. You'll see. So what I want to do, since our gauge is going to go here, I'm going to go online and see if I can get the measurements for the size of that gauge. And I'm going to take this Pepsi box cutout that I have, and I'm going to make a template. And you can see there's already holes here. I don't think those are OEM, but that's probably from the mounting plate from before. They do sell the mounting plates
because like I said, they do have gauges that go in here, but I'm just going to make one. So I'm going to make a template out of cardboard, and then I have a piece of plexiglass. This is actually a little overkill. It's like 1/8 of an inch thick, but it's going to get the job done. I have this on hand. I have a whole bunch of this stuff from one of the jobs I used to work at. So I'm going to take that template, we'll cut out the area that we need, and I'm going to cut the hole already. And I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm actually going to make 3 holes and then put plugs in the side 2 holes. So that way, if we ever get more gauges for this thing, it'll already be pre-cut, so it won't even matter. And I'll just pop the 2 blanks in there and we'll be good to go. I can scuff this up and paint it the same exact color as this center console. It'll all match. It should look pretty good. All right, let's see what we got here. So I had to play around with it a little bit, trim up the edges and whatnot, but this should fit in there perfectly. We've got all our holes lined up. I'm gonna go ahead, hop on the computer, see how big our gauge is, and we will mark where the holes will go as well, and then we can go ahead and mark our piece on the actual plexiglass. Before we make our mounting plate, I'm gonna clean and scuff these so they can start drying while we're doing the rest of our work. All right guys, now one of the most common questions that I receive are, how do I paint plastics and what's the proper way to do it so that it lasts? Well, typically I try to avoid painting plastics at all costs, just because I just don't like doing it. And a lot of times, you know, plastics, especially on quads and dirt bikes, it's like a high traffic area, you know what I mean? Sticks and stuff hit it. There's a lot of rub points, especially on like quads and dirt bikes where your knees rub and whatnot. So usually I just try to avoid it in general. But if you are gonna paint plastics, typically the best way is to make it really clean. Any kind of degreaser is gonna work. You guys know me, I love using Awesome. That's my jams. This stuff works really well. You can pick it up at any Dollar Tree. It only costs $1, so it's cheap, it's effective. And then usually I'll use like a soft bristle brush to clean all the pieces off. I also have lacquer thinner in here. This stuff works really well for removing sticker residue, and plus it's just gonna clean the surface really, really well and make sure that you get a good bond. Now this is the part that's probably the most important. Second to making sure your part is clean, you want to make sure that you have a rough surface. If you're painting onto something that's smooth, chances are the spray paint's not going to bond, it's going to flake off, it's going to look like shit, seriously. So this red Scotch-Brite is what I like to use. You can use a green Scotch-Brite too, but the red's a little bit more coarse and it's probably going to give you better results. So once you've got your part all clean, free of sticker residue and dirt, then you Scotch-Brite it. You can use sandpaper too. I just like using Scotch-Brite. I think it's a little bit easier. And then you want to rinse away any residue from using the Scotch-Brite because it's going to leave behind a fine powder. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these prepped and then we'll get to painting.
Oh yeah, check it out. So all of our pieces are ready to go. Here is our center console. You can see it's kind of this faded, like light scuffed color. That's what you're going for. You wanna make sure that you have it nice and scuffed. Okay guys, so the hard part is definitely done. You definitely want to spend the majority of time on the prep work for this stuff. You see how much work I put into this. That's why my finishes come out well and they last a really long time. The more time you put into it, the better chances are that you're going to have a lasting finish and it's going to come out really nice. So while the prep work is really important, the actual painting process, there's a couple things that I do want to note. So the paint that we're going to be using is Rust-Oleum High Performance Enamel. It's a flat black. You can pick this stuff up anywhere. You can pick it up at Walmart. You can pick it up at Lowe's. I will have a link in the description below if you want to pick it up on Amazon. But these principles are pretty much going to apply to any spray paint. The key things to look out for are your temperature and humidity. So right now it's probably about 60, 65 degrees out and it's a low humidity day. So for me, painting outside is going to work out really nice. But you do want to make sure that it's not an extremely cold day and it's also not an extremely hot day. Some other things to note, especially if you're working with metal, if you have a part that's hot, like let's say you just got done working on it or you just got done washing it and it's super warm and your paint is cold, that's a no-go, man. The same thing if it's vice versa. You want to make sure that your paint and your part is about the same temperature. A good idea is to let the paint sit with the piece at whatever room temperature you're going to be painting at and let them both adjust to the same temperature. That way you're going to get your best adhesion. And last but not least, if you're going to be using primers and top coats, you want to make sure that you're putting them on with the appropriate time intervals. I'm not going to go through all that stuff today because we're not actually doing that, but that's definitely important. Now, we're only going to be putting one top coat on today.
I don't want to do a primer because if we get a scratch, then you'll see the primer underneath. So we're just going to put this flat black on. But it's important not to do thick, heavy coats. I'm going to do about 3 or 4 light, even coats. And the first coat I like to do especially light, let the paint adhere to the surfaces, and we won't get any runs or anything stupid like that. And of course, guys, make sure to shake up your paint really well. All right, now while those interior pieces are drying, let's go ahead and finish up our mounting bracket. I did hop online, and the AFR fuel gauge that's going to go right here is 2 1/16 inch, which is a typical size for a gauge. So I have a 2-inch hole saw right here. This should do a good job. These usually cut just a little bit bigger than the actual size on here. So this will be just over 2 inches. That should be perfect. And even if the gauge comes in and it needs to be trimmed, I can always take a Dremel and open it up a little bit. All right, now this is kind of hack, but I have this hacksaw in the vise, and I'm going to put the automatic switch on, and I think having the saw fixed is going to make it a little bit easier to actually control the piece of plexiglass. Really, ideally, if I had a vertical bandsaw, that'd be perfect. I could use a Dremel, but I just, that can take forever, so I'm just going to try this out and see if it works. Clean off these edges a little bit.
Okay, so now is the perfect time to check our valve clearances, which is actually a really easy job. Well, it's a really easy job for where we're at right now because pretty much everything on the interior is stripped, so we have really good access, because that would probably be the hardest part of this job. But since we do have access, you can see all we have to do is remove our cam covers. This is pretty much the only obstruction we have, is this wire harness. There's 4 bolts on each side. Let me hop around the other side. Whew, man, what a mess this thing is. But we have great access to our cam cover in the front as well. We should have no problem inspecting our valve clearances. And I also want to leave all this stuff off for now. Like I said about the AFR fuel module that we're going to be putting in, I believe it comes with a second O2 sensor. We're going to be replacing this one, and that goes directly to the AFR module. So believe it or not, even though this thing looks like a mess, I mean, look at this thing from back here. If you walked into this job and you didn't know what was going on, this would be a freaking nightmare. But it's actually coming along pretty well, and I know where everything is, I know what's going on, and it's really not that bad. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to remove those cam covers, and we'll get to checking our clearances. Oh no, dude. This is bad. This is really bad. Oh, dude, I've never seen oil so sludgy. It's so sticky, it doesn't even move. It's like Elmer's glue, dude. Oh, God. Oh, what is this? Oh, what is that, dude? So there was definitely water in this motor. A bunch of subscribers reached out and they were like, dude, you have to flush that motor. Definitely flush that motor. It was probably submerged. It probably had water in it at some time. It definitely did, dude. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not going to lie. Everything actually looks pretty good in here. And the oil up top doesn't look milky. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have water in it. but I think this stuff has probably been stuck to this cam cover for who knows, man. But it's definitely, we're definitely going to flush this thing, dude, no doubt. So let's pop off the front cam cover and see what's going on in there. Yeah, pretty much same story up here. It looks to be decent, but there's definitely, you can see on this cam chain, there's definitely some water in the oil. Like I said, I'm not too worried about it. This is really long overdue. A lot of you guys are going to give me shit for not doing this the moment that I got it. I really should have flushed the oil right away. What can you do, man? So, funny story. We all know by now, if you've been following the series, that the previous owner that sold this thing to me was a jitbag. But I just wanted to mention this because I thought this was funny. When he was showcasing this thing to me, he was like very adamant to show me the oil. He was like, "Oh yeah, look, oh, look, bro, look, oh, look at the oil. It's clean, it's clean." And I'm not even. I know I do voices and exaggerations, but the dude, he kind of talked like that. I'm not gonna lie, but he was like very adamant on showing me the oil, and you could tell he literally just dumped oil into the machine. Now that being said, the oil does not look milky at all. It actually looks pretty good. And one of the other things the guy said that just made me know that he was bullshitting me, he goes, "Oh yeah, bro, all I use is Amsoil. You know, when you buy oil, it's all the same. It doesn't matter which one you buy, they're all the same, so I just get the cheapest one. I just get Amsoil." Well, dude, if you know anything about oil, Amsoil is like one of the most premium brands you can buy, and it's not the cheapest oil. So nothing he said made sense. Anyways, the point that I was trying to make is that the guy obviously knew that water had gotten into the motor at some point in time, because he was, when somebody's like, "Dude, you need to see, look, the oil's good, I didn't even ask. He's like, he knew, dude, he definitely knew. I know you knew. Regardless, I think we're gonna be safe, and I don't think this is going to be an issue. I'm going to flush this thing quite a few times, and I know I said I was going to do the oil change in this video, but we're going to save that for the next video because I'm waiting for the oil filters to come. I ordered 4 oil filters because I anticipated this, and guys, believe me, I did check the oil multiple times after running the motor, but you know, like I just showed you, it looks clean. You wouldn't have thought that there's liquid or water in there. So it's going to be really interesting to see what it looks like when we drain this oil. I'm really curious to see what that looks like.
All right, so I'm going to pull the spark plugs now so that we can turn our engine over easily. And plus, I want to see what these plugs look like. These are really skinny plugs. I'm using a 14mm socket to get this off. Not terrible. Believe it or not, it's actually easier to get from the other side. Looks about the same as the other one. Alright, so the first thing to do is get our piston at top dead center. So I'm going to do that by using this little endoscope. It's a tiny camera with an LED on it. And I literally have it hooked up to one of my old cell phones. These things literally cost 20 bucks. I will have a link in the description below if you guys want to use one of these. These come in handy a lot. So this will fit in our spark plug hole, no problem. We'll be able to see where the piston is, and it's an easy way to see if we're at top dead center. Now I just came around the other side of the motor, so I'm going to turn the motor clockwise according to the manual, and we will wait until the piston is at top dead center. I'm doing this by gripping the primary clutch. All right guys, now I apologize for poor visuals here, but essentially now that our piston is at top dead center, I'm taking a feeler gauge and just making sure that our intake and exhaust valves are in spec. We had to do a little bit of adjustment on the intake valve for cylinder number 2, so I'm going to go ahead and check out cylinder number 1, and we should be good to go.
Okay, so that front cylinder checked out good. I didn't have to do any adjustments at all. The only adjustments we had to do was a very, very slight amount on the intake of the back cylinder. So we're good to go, man. Our valves are in spec. The only thing left to do now is check out those interior pieces and that piece that I made for the AFR. Oh yeah, there they are. hell yeah, these things are looking like brand new. Wow. Even I'm impressed. You can see this nice, even finish. Some of the stuff, you know, little imperfections from before, whatever. This isn't going to be a show bike. This piece came out really nice. Now, I know I said that I was going to make this the bed liner, but I accidentally painted it with everything else. And then I went to put the bed liner on it and it started raining. So I think that was God telling me not to use the bed liner. And of course, here is our AFR mount. This I did do in bed liner, so we have a little bit of contrast. You can see it drops right in place. All the holes line up. Now this is one other thing that I changed my mind on. I was going to put 2 other holes in case we get other pods or something in there. Decided against that because I don't think anything's going to be going in there. And if we really do want to put something in there, you can always remove this panel and just drill new holes. All right, so you guys can see that these interior pieces came out really nice and they should be really durable as well. So I've been noticing a lot of comments and DMs, people asking me what I do for a living. So as of now, guys, this is what I do for a living. As of December of 2019, I left my full-time job and this is what I'm pursuing full-time. Now, prior to that, I did work on emergency services vehicles. That's where I learned a lot of my wiring knowledge. And I was a forklift technician for a period of time too, and my primary function at that job was reconditioning the forklifts. So we would get forklifts in from, you know, auction, we would buy out companies, and these machines would come in, they weren't running, and they were really thrashed, dude. Industrial equipment just gets totally f***ed up. So a lot of those machines, they would come in, they would have plastic trim pieces. A large majority of the pieces are plastic, especially on the interior of the machines where you sit. And this is how we would restore them, man. And those machines would hold up really well. So that's where I learned a lot of my knowledge. You know, I was always a handy person, but I've been getting a lot of DMs and stuff on that. So I figured I would, you know, give you guys a little bit of history on me. So I'm super excited to get this thing together. These body panels are going to look amazing once they're inside. The inside, I'm never going to want to leave the inside of this thing. It's going to be so nice. So we're getting really close. The valves are in spec. In the next video, I'm sure I will have my oil filters, so we will do an oil change. I'm really excited to see what's going on inside that motor. And I got my snorkel kit in today, well, my DIY turbo kit that we're gonna make snorkels out of. So that will probably be in the next video. It's gonna be the snorkels and the oil. And otherwise, guys, getting a lot of DMs on the 250R as well. We're still waiting for the parts to come back from Powder Coat, and I have some custom covers being made for the motor, so everything's just on hold until that stuff comes in. It won't be too long, I would say another week or so, and I'm sure those pieces will come back, and I'll be making more 250R videos. As far as the YZ125, I have my piston on order. As soon as that comes in the mail, I will be sending the cylinder out to be re-sleeved. I haven't really been pursuing too much on that because I've been so busy with the Maverick. So that's what's going on in the shop, guys. We get a lot of new subscribers and everything. If you're new to the channel, please give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this content. Definitely hit that subscribe button. The channel's growing really fast, man. Really, really happy about it. Super excited. All you guys rock. We have the best community by far of any off-road channel that I know of. This is where it's at, man. So I want to give everybody a huge thank you. I appreciate everybody. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great weekend. Peace out.